Hey guys, this video was requested by someone who goes by the name WOTFS. I don't really know how to pronounce it, so I'm not going to try. But he wanted to know how to take a manual knife like this. And I have a cheap one here, and I have the Benchmade Monochrome, which is one of their cheaper Benchmades, and flick out the blade. Even though these are manual knives, you want to know how to do that, okay, to make it come out nice and smooth and fast. I have a cheap knife here to show you. Now, even though this doesn't have a thumb stud, I'm going to explain why it's a little harder to do on cheaper knives and a little trick you can do. But anyway, basically, what I'm doing is I'm taking a manual knife and just flicking out the blade. How do I do that? Well, I'm so used to it, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's simple to explain. It's just weird because I never think of it. It's just second nature to me. But basically, on a decent knife, or even some of the cheaper knives. This one happens to not have it, but some of the cheaper knives have these now. It's a ball bearing detent. Okay, basically inside where you can't see here, but inside the handle here. Now, I can't pick up good detail when I come close, but the other side of this frame lock, there's a little tiny ball bearing. Okay, like imagine like a little miniature marble, okay, just a round steel ball, very, very small. It's embedded halfway into the handle and sticking halfway up. The blade itself has a little indent on the blade, which you can't see because it's covered out here by the handle. But basically, as the blade slides across, as this little ball is just rubbing against the blade, at one point, and actually you can kind of see it if you kind of watch. I mean, I can see it in person here, but I don't know if the camera's picking up. Right above where this little crevice is here. Right now, it's not shown. And as I move down, you can kind of see a little hole. It almost looks like a little hole in the blade. Basically, as you rotate the knife, that little hole matches up with that little ball, okay? And you'll find that as you're closing the knife, it's almost like the blade pulls in by itself. Right at that point right there. Okay, see where my finger stopped? I stopped pushing the blade, but the blade kind of sucked in the last second right there. And then what's happening is that little ball is just fitting into that spot. The purpose of having this on a knife is to keep the blade, if you shake the knife, it keeps the blade in, okay, so it doesn't open when you don't want it to. But what's good is that when you go to put pressure on the thumb stud, at first, very light pressure, it's not gonna pop that out of place. But as you're pushing, it's building up pressure. So when it finally releases, it gives you just enough pressure to kind of flick that out, fully into the open and lock position, which is very easy to do. With a cheaper knife that lacks that ball bearing detent, okay, and the ball bearing itself, there's no pressure built up. So, I mean, even though this doesn't have a thumb stud, in attempting the same thing, it only goes about halfway, 3/4 of the way. It doesn't matter how hard I try. Okay, I'm not going to get it all the way open because the blade's already moving with the littlest bit of pressure on my finger moving outwards. It's not building up, okay, and releasing. It's just pushing. So what you want to do with this is, as you're kind of flicking it open, just all you have to do is, my camera's a little bit up. All you have to do is kind of flick your wrists with it, okay, and you can get that in the open position. Not that hard. But with, like I said, a knife with the detent, you don't have to move your wrist at all. Your thumb's doing all the work itself. But basically, how I do this, sorry, move the camera back down. You don't want to push straight up, okay? You don't want to push straight out. What you want to do, let me explain this better. Instead of pushing, I got a little pen here. Instead of pushing straight out or straight up, use your thumb and you want to push on an angle upwards, okay, that way. Okay, just like that. So I use kind of the pad of my thumb right underneath, use the other side, not where my nail is here, okay, and not all the way down here. I use kind of the tip of, I guess, the meat, your skin. And I put that right on the corner of the thumb stud. Give you a better view. Here's a side view, pushing down. Okay, and what I do is I have my thumb kind of bent like this. And basically, I'm just pushing this way, and I'm just giving it a little flick with my thumb. Okay? It gets the blade right out. It's real easy. But like I said, you want to go up on an upwards angle like that. Okay? That's going to give you your best results. If you go more towards this way, it's going to still flick out, but it's going to be a little harder, and if you do that, sometimes you could slip off and get your finger up by the blade, which you obviously don't want to do. And if you push straight out sideways, it's not going to get enough oomph to flip all the way out, you see? To start off, I guess you can go, give it less pressure, and then same thing as before, move the camera up, same thing as before, kind of flick your wrist open, and then once you get the hang of it, you don't have to move your wrist at all, you can just flick it open. So you take a manual knife, even this cheaper, $30 knife, and you can have it just as fast as an assisted opening knife or even an automatic knife. With an automatic knife, you take it out of your pocket, you push the button, the blade's open. Assisted knife, take it out of your pocket, gently push the blade, blade's open. And that time I didn't give it a full flick. With a manual knife, same deal as the assisted really, but by just giving a little bit more pressure, it's fully open. Obviously, the biggest benefit of doing this way and learning how to just flick these manual knives open is that it's completely legal. Now, right now, assisted opening knives are legal most places. I think technically all 50 states, although I've heard certain parts of certain states, people have had trouble with them, but eventually I can see them being a problem. So for the most part, I carry manual knives because I like automatic knives. I think they're really cool. But when you get into automatics, what you're doing is you're buying a knife that has more parts than is really needed. Okay, so that's something else that can fail. A quality automatic knife will probably never give you a problem. But again, more moving parts, more chance of something going wrong. So I just like to stick with a manual knife, again, for legality purposes, keeps things simple. And then the only thing I have to really worry about, I don't personally, in my state, Pennsylvania, where I live, there's no blade length limit. No, I can have a massive knife on me. The only thing is I have to explain to the officer why I need a knife that big. I can't walk into ShopRite, the food store, with a machete on my side. I have no purpose for that. But if you do in your state have or whatever country you live in, if you have a blade length limit, that's really the only thing you have to worry about. So that's it. That's flicking a knife open. Real simple. Again, if you have a cheap knife that doesn't have that little bit of resistance from a ball bearing, flick it same way, but use that little wrist action. Okay, so get all the way out. It's not that hard. Just takes a little bit of practice. So I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for tuning in and watching it, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.